Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, or at least good afternoon. Um, I would like to thank the Bond University, together with its partners, for organizing this very timely and highly relevant conference. I think, in the interest of time, I'll try to cover a few ideas that I'd like to share with delegates at the conference today in relation to how South Africa may structure its economic development around its membership of the Brics Forum. Now, of course, in the last decade or so, one would see a proliferation of new types of state-centered fora, often described as minilaterals, and these can, in essence, be seen as a reaction to discontent with various aspects of multilateral rulemaking. At the center of this contention is the growing call for economic justice. A central tenet of this debate is the pursuit of fair and equitable rules-based international trading regimes that accommodate the developmental interest of developing countries. And to a large extent, the global economic crisis has accelerated change in the balance of economic and political power towards emerging countries. Now, the rules-based institutions of the 20th century are in flux, and the trading system is also subject to various changes. Now, of course, one has to consider South Africa's position in context of this changing international order. In order for South Africa to derive value from its BRICS membership, it is necessary to develop an economic strategy that clearly articulates the country's objectives and how it would pursue them as a member of the forum. In order to address its socio-economic developmental agenda, South Africa's BRICS economic strategy should be guided by its economic policies and informed by its priority sectors in the short and medium term. Now, of interest here, and the picture that emerges from various policy interventions over the last 5 years or so, one may infer that the South African position is being established in relation to various processes, including its membership of the BRICS. In recent years, it has produced several seminal papers on its interaction on a domestic and international level with the factors of globalization and the internationalization that is currently characterizing this phase of economic development globally. Included in these position papers are the White Paper on International Relations, the National Development Plan, the New Growth Path, the Industrial Policy Action Plan, which is currently in its third iteration, and then, of course, various economic diplomacy programs on bilateral and multilateral bases. Now, of course, this list is not exhaustive, but it does provide some evidence as to the emerging pattern of engagement that seeks to leverage domestic requirements in order to address global challenges. The strategic focus of BRICS is still centered on economic or financial issues, and this is reinforced by the Delhi Declaration. Now, while South Africa's trade and investment relations with developed countries remain important, the future growth and development prospects will increasingly require strengthening of relations with the dynamic and growing economies of the South and with Africa. And it underlines the importance of the developmental integration approach to economic development and integration in Africa, with a specific focus on regional integration in the Southern African Customs Union, the Southern African Development Community, and in the recently launched tripartite free trade area negotiations. Now, of course, South Africa has also undergone a shift in its trade profile over the last decade. I've included a few slides to outline specifically how this has happened. Now, the period which I've taken as a comparative time sequence start in the year 2000 and extends to the year 2011, for which I could find some statistics. Now, in 2011, China ranked as South Africa's top trading partner. In 2011 as well, India has emerged as a major trading partner, now surpassing the Netherlands, France, Saudi Arabia, and replacing Belgium in the top 10 trading partners when compared to 2002 trade levels. In the export markets, we see a similar picture with South Africa, with South Africa's important export markets changing in very important ways. Reflected here once again is that China is South Africa's largest export market, although China did not rank in the top 10 export destinations in the year 2000. Whereas South Africa's shares of exports to the UK halved from 8.9% in 2000 to 4.1 in 2011, China absorbed more than triple of these exports in that particular year. Exports to the US, Germany, and Japan have maintained a consistent share, and the position relative to other destinations has remained constant. Now, against this backdrop, it's important for South Africa's economic and developmental aspirations to build on this particular dynamic. I'll attempt to outline a strategic approach to the Brics formation that South Africa could consider to implement in order to promote its economic development and regional activities within Africa and globally. Now, South Africa should be able to use the strategic Brics platform to pursue and realize foreign and domestic policy priorities, and this interaction should be aimed at three levels of engagement: at a global level, at an African level, promoting Africa's sustainable development, and also to strengthen political and economic relationships. Now, on a domestic level, South Africa should be able to use the Brics platform to address poverty and inequality. Regionally, the objective of South Africa should be to obtain support from its Brics partners to promote the African agenda. Africa's infrastructure development and industrialization within the NEPID framework is critical for South Africa's own economic development. Now, of course, one of the aspects that contributes significantly to this particular scenario is the possible development finance through a proposed new Brics development bank that could unlock infrastructure finance on terms that are favorable to South Africa and the continent. Now, while precise data on FDI flows to Africa is difficult to obtain, it is clear that South African companies are amongst the top investors in Africa in a wide range of sectors covering manufacturing, retail, communications, construction, finance, and tourism. Now, despite trade with the Brics, South Africa recorded a trade deficit with China, India, and Brazil, and a small surplus with Russia in 2011. This reflects the imbalanced structure of bilateral trade, due largely to South Africa's exporting low-value products and commodities while importing higher value-added manufactured products. Hence, South Africa's export basket should be diversified towards products that involve more value-adding and labor-absorbing activities. In conclusion and by way of summary, I would posit that the success of participation in Brics will rely heavily on the state's ability to monitor developments on the African continent, Brics countries, emerging and developing countries, and the developed world at large. South Africa or any other Brics member have no interest in a weakened or dysfunctional North. Europe remains South Africa's biggest trading partner per region. Substantial work is still outstanding in respect of the Economic Partnership Agreement, while NAFTA, for instance, is also still a significant partner of Africa and South Africa specifically in relation to manufactured exports. The Doha Round is a necessary condition for further democratization of the rules-based trading system. In the interim, South Africa should focus its footprint firmly in its near-abroad. Regional integration within SADC and COMESA should be prioritized, as is indeed the case. And of course, infrastructure development and finance would pave the way for greater trade within the African region, and of course provide Africa with an opportunity to eradicate the trade-related deficiency that it suffers in terms of its international trading position. I think I've run out of time. I thank you for your attention and the opportunity to make this presentation. Thank you.